on this side so she doesn't start barking. I'll be back in a sec.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Juneteenth activities. Tonight we'll have Monique Cullars Doty. We got Latanya Snow on the East Coast. I believe Marilyn Hill will be joining us soon. And we're going to have a conversation about police accountability in the future of policing. And this conversation will get going shortly here. All right. So, Monique, if you could just tell us a little bit about your background here in activism.
Absolutely. So I am an activist here, an organizer in the Twin Cities area. I really became involved, it was early on in the Black Lives Matter movement. My nephew, Marcus Golden, was killed by St. Paul police in 2015, actually January 14th of 2015. And after that, I really just became like dedicated completely to the cause of justice for all, working to build solidarity with other marginalized people and groups. That's very important. And there's been so much work to do here. Unfortunately, it's very unfortunate. It's tragic, the number of people that are being killed here. And I'm just really proud, though, to work with so many people who are like-minded, so many people who want justice, so many people who will be selfless and just stand up and do the work that needs to be done, right? There are people who want to do it for, money. They're always throwing up their PayPal or something like that. And people want notoriety, but there are so many people just doing groundwork who don't get acknowledgement. And it's just a wonderful place to organize because people who care, we just stay out here and support the families and do whatever we can. You're muted. We can't hear you. You're muted.
What got you involved in fighting for justice for stolen lives? Yeah.
Me?
Yes, you.
Oh, fighting for after the experience that I had when my nephew was killed, it was so horrific. They launched a smear campaign with lies that included even my family. It was such a big cover up that I did not want other people to experience this. And if they are experiencing having lost someone to a police murder, then I wanted to be able to support them. And with building networks, and really it's like a family that we work with here, people who are just offering up their time, their talents, and gifts to get the work done. So it was a community where there were people already doing, some of the work. And then we've been able to expand upon that and build coalitions of people and groups working together. So like when Black Lives Matter Minnesota is out, then we know it's also Black Lives Matter St. Paul. It's also Twin Cities Coalition for Justice for Jamar. It's also Racial Justice Network. It's also CUAPB, Communities United Against Police Brutality. So there are just so many different groups that we work with. CARE Minnesota. Just so many, like on-site public media. And we just have some great people to work with. We have great independent journalists and photographers who are documenting our truth. So we know that we can't just rely on the reports that we see in commercial media.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been able to make some changes and some demands, like what you're not going to do. We counter that narrative, right? Like the man who just drove into the peaceful demonstrators holding space for Winston Smith in uptown Minneapolis, where a driver, a white man, a homegrown domestic terrorist, drove his vehicle into the crowd, injuring 2 people and killing 1.
Wow.
Right.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I just saw there was an article that was, released with him, with his name. And are they using the mugshot? No, because it's a white man, right? And it's white privilege, even though he is a murderer, they weren't using that mugshot, right? And then the police also tried to say he was intoxicated. Well, no, the people who were there holding him were like, he's not intoxicated. So we just have, just a great community to work with. I'm just dedicated. I'm already was a servant. I believe in serving people in the community, right? Before I say I'm a leader, I truly am a servant. That's why I've always liked to do is helping others.
So we got Marilyn Hill just joined us, and I think she's trying to get her camera together. There she goes. Thanks for joining us, Ms. Hill.
Yes. Okay.
So Monique was just telling us how she got into being into fighting for stolen lives, and kind of like all 3 of us have people in our families or someone who has been murdered or harmed by law enforcement. It was I wouldn't say somebody immediate, but the immediate family member, but my sister's son, Delshia. I was doing it before that. Monique really was the first in the contemporary movement, the first person that I really think that I fought for the way we fight now. Can you talk to us about how you got here and some of the fights that are talking? And I just really want you guys to have a conversation.
Now you have to update me about where I'm at. This is about the fight or the reparation about what we've been in the past of when I first came here, or the struggles I went through. I want to understand.
Well, just tell us about Demetrius first, real quick.
Well, my son, I came here in 1977. I came from Iowa, and I was pregnant with my son when I came up here. Minnesota was a state that I thought I had great opportunities to probably invest in a business, but something went wrong with it because of my scholarship. And then I tried to go into the Army, but instead I gave my son to my mother and my father for custody. My son was killed as when he turned 18 years old. My mother and father always had a compassion for my son because he pretty much raised him. And so the year that he got killed in April 28th of 97, it was the year that my daughter and my son was living with them, because unfortunately someone set my basement on fire. And that evening when that happened, it was just mighty funny that the officer was sitting around in that area in plain clothes. And my son was still in the building, in the facility. And I was told that he was making music. So my son was killed, unlawful wrong. It was an unlawful death. If a person robbed somebody, they would not stand around and wait for the cops. They would be gone. And if a person robbed somebody in a building, they wouldn't rob somebody in a building that their mother or their grandpa and their grandpa live at and still stick there. And another thing, you wouldn't rob somebody in an apartment building when you're associated with everybody that lived there too. So everything just doesn't add up. And in the report, I don't think that the witnesses that was in the report, the ones that he has in the report, that wrote the report, and he still had a records. I don't believe that is I think it's false information, because we know these people. Matter of fact, they're married in some of my family. So the truth need to be told. And I'm searching for the truth. May my son rest in peace, because he was shot. There were 6 holes in his body with the R-15. One of the holes was so big in front of his chest, my sister looked down at him and saw that big old hole, while he pointed a gun at my father to tell my father to go back inside. Only words to come out of my father's mouth is, "What you gonna do? Shoot me too." And just imagine his own sister looking her own brother in his eyes while he's trying to say something, and his body filling up with blood in his lungs, because he's dying. And the only thing she can see is the death leaving him, and he's dying. And my daughter's traumatized up to the day, and she still won't talk about it. This brings me back, when you relive things that's in your past. When we first came to Minnesota, it was a struggle. Back in those days, we came up here. It was hard times living on Holly, in that area off of Selby. There was nothing but bars, saloons, liquor stores, prostitution. You were scared to walk down Selby, and then we lived over in that area. So,
can I ask you, Monique, because both of you guys have had experience, so both of you guys' family members were what I would say murdered by the St. Paul Police Department. And could you share, starting with you, Monique, the experience, what that's like when they murder one of your loved ones and you're trying to find answers?
So there's such a stark difference between a police homicide, or what is called officer-involved shooting, which is a way to kind of sugarcoat what happened. An officer shot and killed somebody, right? So it's not officer-involved shooting, because someone in the community shoots somebody, then say a community-involved shooting. No, it's not an officer-involved shooting. An officer shot and killed someone. So my experience was, one, the police control the media. 2, people don't care necessarily what the truth is. They just want to go with the police narrative. There was no investigation. Things just didn't add up. My nephew was unarmed for 11 hours. They did not even search his vehicle until Sheila Lambie, who went to my parents' house with a search warrant, searched Marcus's room. The warrant to search the car was granted the same time the warrant to search the house was. They did not search it.
what happened?
They took one photo. The gun is laying on top of the glass, busted out from his windows when the police were shooting at him. So we know the police planted the gun because they had to justify it, right? Then they also created a false narrative saying it was a domestic that his ex-girlfriend called. She did not call. That's the same false narrative they used with Jamar Clark. So what they would do, because the domestic situation is one of the few situations where the police can just go in and interact like without a warrant, bust in. It's a domestic. So they had to try and hang. They didn't have to. They chose to, right? They chose to cover up for Officer Jeremy Dover Spike and Dan Peck. Chose to cover up for them. They self-reported to the scene, right? They weren't supposed to be there. They just self-reported to the scene. They re-recorded the 911 calls more than once. They put surveillance on my phone, on my parents' landline even. I didn't have a landline at the time. They have so much control and so much power that I just kind of had to say, well, you know, if I'm having a conversation, they can hear it, right? So what they'll do is they'll have keywords that they want to pick up with their like stingray technology, surveillance or whatever. But you can tell when that happens, and I can even demonstrate for you. This is one way that I had seen on TV. They're like, you want to know if someone's on your phone, you can hold it up to a speaker. Actually, I don't have my phone, I guess, but and it makes a different sound. So it's kind of hard to prove, but they had their stingray technology like in the back of my house, like the leaves weren't full, and I could see. I was like, oh, there it is, But even saying that, right, as someone who just saw someone, right, but we see time and time again, it's the police trying to get a story, trying to manipulate something. So I talked to a woman, and she's telling me, she let me, oh, he tried to run over the officers. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Right. And I was like, Then I thought, let me go and look on my phone. I looked on my phone and it was on the news. And I just held up. I said, this does not look like what you're telling me. Then she was quick and she got out the house. After she had staged his room, saying he's suicidal. So now it's not domestic. It's suicide by cop. They keep changing their story. And they literally took some things out of the closet, which I had asked my nephew just put him in the closet because his nephew died 5 months to the day before. And the police knew that. So because they know my sister had been a volunteer reserve officer for 21 years when my nephew was killed. But that didn't matter, right? They don't care about the Black woman. They're going to hold that blue line and support those white racist officers who have been targeting my nephew. So they staged his room. Not only did they stage his room and hang up like my nephew's t-shirts, someone dies, they'll have like a t-shirt with their name on them, or their picture and face. So they hung those up around the room. They were extra, and there were some people had made some pictures and donated them. I said, just put them in the closet for me. They put them all around the room and then put the photo, which should have been part of the investigation because they took the photos, although it really had nothing to do with the investigation. But they put it on the cover of the St. Paul Pioneer Press. And actually, we could have sued for that because they should not have been releasing, if that's part of the investigation, it should not have been released to the press then. Also, you're in my mother's and father's home, taking pictures, putting it in there. So they staged the room, put a false story in the paper, a horrific false story. They put on the news, lied and said he was facing felony charges for terroristic threats. That is not true. And I'm so thankful that we have an investigation like, hey, they have no evidence of that. That's not true. So it's the demonization, it's the lying on the one who's dead, is lying even on the family in the report. Oh, Monique Cullars Doty said this. Like, y'all didn't talk to me like that. Just, oh, Monique stated. So taking possibly some text messages out of context, acting like I sat down, gave them this, 2-3 hour long interview. Monique Cullars Doty stated. Well, they're trying to use text messages to justify what it was. And so they said, oh, Marcus Golden was there to kill someone. Like, I know my nephew, he's not doing that. So they really try to drag him through the mud. So what I often say, the police try to bury him in lies, but we buried him in love, right? So, because we know better, right? And even if he was that person that they lied on and said that's who he was, he still should have had a day in court. But they never should have talked to him. Someone said, oh, he's sending threatening text messages. There are no text messages. The officer says, oh, he saw them. But that would have been after Marcus was killed. Well, then you mean to tell me this man said he had threatening text messages on the phone? You saw it, but you didn't take the phone. You didn't take a picture. You didn't have him send you screenshots. So there are no text messages. There's no threatening text messages. So it was so many lies to try and justify it, to make it so we didn't have support or sympathy. But hey, Twin Cities, people were like, we're going to support you. What can we do? That's why Trayvon Cruz, my day one, Trayvon Cruz was at that press conference with the St. Paul NAACP. And then we got with Rashad Anthony Turner, and we were doing Black Lives Matter St. Paul. and Trey Hearn has been with me like every step of the way. And so now we're co-founders of Black Lives Matter Minnesota. And Trey Hearn, though, I can't keep up with him. Trey Hearn is doing so many things for the people and for the movement, especially reparations. You know, he's the first person I knew that was really talking about and pushing reparations. So I've had so much support. People continue to support, and I was helping people who had better cases than me, right? I had no lawyer, I had no investigators, but that didn't matter, right? Because I'm just still going to help. Because the one thing I knew, I'm just trusting God's plan, right? So whatever it is, I'm not going to worry about it. If I needed it, then He will provide it. And as it has come down, He's provided whatever I need for this case, and I am, truly thankful. One of the things that I started talking about probably 5 years ago was removing the statute of limitations for police homicides. Marilyn Hill, I mean, that would be for you, right? And at the time, it did not apply to me at all, but because I work in insurance and deal with like statute of limitations and everything, and then I was like, oh, they removed it for the Catholic Church. Oh, they removed it for the Boy Scouts. Well, those institutions and those individuals had the trust of the people that they were in contact with, and they held all the information about what happened and did nothing. It's the same thing with the police. They held the information, they controlled the information, they controlled the narrative, and people other than the ones whose family members had been killed, the people believe them and believe them still. And people want to believe the police still, right? Even like George Floyd, people are like, oh, Chauvin was set up. How was Chauvin set up? Right? How was that possible? But so that's kind of the work that we do, Trey and I do together. Marilyn Hill, I really want to commend you on the work that you've done, because you've come in without having a selfish platform. Your son is gone 25 years this year. But you can, and there was no Black Lives Matter movement then. There was, not the help that you needed or should have had, even from the organizations that were in place then and that are still in place. But you came in, and I did not even know Marilyn. And I go up to an event, and she's got a banner with others, people that have been killed by the police, and Marcus is on there. She could have had it all about her son. This was his first event, but she was doing it for everyone. That's why I know God's going to bless you, right? I know that there's something coming, because you have done it with such a giving heart. And then you had another event. You said, Monique, I want to put the logos on of the groups that are helping. Like, no one's ever done that. And Miss Marilyn's professional. She's getting her banners professionally printed, right? She professionally printing shirts. She made a shirt for Marcus. We're on FaceTime, or we're on Messenger, and I'm watching. She said, Monique, I'm ironing.
And I'm still waiting for you to get it.
Praying. You know what? She didn't have to do that. But her son is gone, and she's giving back to other people, in the midst of her pain, because she didn't have help then, right? And you still give. So I honor you for that. I honor you, because there's a lot of family members and people that have selfish platforms. They think because they had a video or they had a movie made after them that they are celebrities in the world of police homicides and Black Lives Matter. But that's not the case. Everybody matters. Every single case. Filmed, not filmed, 25 years ago or today. Right? So I'm thanking you for that. Trey Hearn Cruz, you lost your nephew after helping so many others to have this, land on your doorstep with your nephew, Hardell Sherrill. Horrible, but you set it off. You were going down to Beltrami, making that 4-hour drive, supporting your sister, Delshia, helping her, out at the BCA protesting, because, you knew what to do. So she had that instant support. And because Trey Hearn's out there, the rest of the people are going to be out there in support, because we all know Trey Hearn, so both of you, really, I applaud you.
Thank you so much.
And with Delshia, you making banners for Delshia, you making banners for Jamar Clark. You said for Philando Castile, for Paul Castaway, for Phil Quinn, for our Asian brothers and sisters who have been victims of police homicide. Monique, I remember a guy was killed by the Ramsey County Sheriff Department. He was white. And then how I'm getting chills right now, even just talking about it. But like what happens when like when one of the hardest ones for me was Phil Quinn, because it's still when we were about to shut down the it was Black Marathon, and they were there. They were only like 2 or 3 or something, but they knew what was going on, and they were crying, and I knew that they knew that their father had been murdered, right? And yeah, so this is real work, man. And I just it makes you meet those of us. I think it just has made me become a better person. And I'm glad that I've been able to work with the people I've been able to work with over the years. You said something like people have better cases than yours. I wouldn't say that. I just think that you have a big heart, and you like will put you would say, not that I'm putting Marcus to the side, but this person your family member just got killed. I have to step up and do something for them right now, and that's what I seen from you. Same thing with Marilyn. The rally we did have where you fed the people, gave away the shirts, and everybody just left happy, feeling good about the event, and then fired up and ready to fight for more justice and get more justice for more families. But I wanted to roll back into the art of the cover-up. And Marilyn, if you could just speak on, what we started calling it, we would say the St. Paul Police Department has a pattern of practice that they have mastered over 30, 40 years. And now that there's a BLM or just a movement that's fighting for stolen lives, we have to create a pattern of practice that we expose these murderers. Could you go into the art of the cover-up as it pertains to Demetrius Hill? And shout out to Keita Suggs too. Go ahead.
First of all, I want to let Monique say one thing. Monique, you are a splendid woman. I love your courage. And one thing I can tell you, I want to thank you so much, because at one point you called me and you had told me the Lord told you to tell me to stop talking and be quiet. And it was for me to stand still and stand fast. And I listened to that, and you prayed for me on the phone. And that was a strong message. And I done exactly what you did say when you was on the phone praying for me. And I took time and meditated on that prayer, what you said. And since then, the Lord's been opening up doors for me, because I knew that I had gave myself to him, and I knew I had a purpose in life. But when I ask a person, what's your purpose? It's to follow and be like Jesus. But I did not know where my gift came from and where he wanted me to be. But I had a feeling it was involved children. But I didn't know where it was until I stand fast and I shut my mouth and I let peace be still. And you know what? You revealed it and helped me figure out where I was going. And you are a remarkable woman, and I thank you so much. And I will do anything in the world to those people that cares, because I have a heart that cares. And when you reach out with tender love, that's what God wants us to do. Give back, because we are blessed children. And when we talk about back then in 1997, in those years, the police was running in mobs like SWAT teams. And I remember those years, it was very hard on the streets, with prostitution. There was pimps, gangsters, a lot of gangsters, red and skins and blue or whatever. But I didn't like the fact that officers, when you encounter them, they treated you like property. You know, they didn't treat you like human beings. You know, you got into a fight with them. They tried to really hurt you. And so my son back then kept telling me the officers and police, but he wasn't telling me exactly what, but he always told me there's this particular officer that seems like he wants to kill me. It hurts today to even speak about that because my son got killed. And I believe he was set up by a set of polices, not just one. Because it takes a multitude in order to trap one, especially when they couldn't catch him. And so as I speak on what Trayon is going at, and I'm hoping I'm on the right track. Am I?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My son was victimized. And then at that point, he was known as a number and a statistic. And that's what bothers me today, that they call you a statistic instead of naming you what you really, God gave him a name, just like Jesus Christ has a name. And so when my son got shot, they gave that officer a medal. Since when do you give an officer a medal for a line of duty saying he put his life on risk? Aggravated robbery. I can see you putting yourself on a risk, dangerous, going into a bank robbery and somebody holding up 5 or 6 people in a bank because they're robbing a bank and they got ammunition. And then you go into there and try to rescue a lot of people. You deserve a medal, but you don't you don't honor a man like that. And this guy that got the medal was known as a dirty cop, a real dirty cop. I cannot put that out there right now because I'm allowing the sheriff of St. Paul Police Department, and he is his supervisor, and I wrote a letter to answer me back on a few things. So I'm gonna respect that part until I get some answers back on some things I did request. Also, I'm requesting for them to release my belongings of my son. The letter that I received, you can tell he don't even understand what the situation is. So when I talk about it, it's all lies. Even a letter I received last week, he don't even know what he's talking about. I didn't say that 2 officers went into that apartment building with open firing. Only 1 officer shot my son, put 6 holes in his body. And my son asked him for his last words, why? If you shoot somebody and you don't even know what you got shot for, wouldn't you ask why you did this to me?
Yep.
And only thing the officer could tell him, you gonna be all right.
Wow. And I don't want to cut you off, and we can come back to that. So I wanted to use the next couple minutes to talk about, since you guys have had these experiences, the future. Like, what do we expect from, if we even expect there to be a police department, if we're going to have police in the future, what does that look like?
I'm going to say this.
I'll let you finish. Go.
Okay, I'm going to say this. Today, I had to learn to forgive and surrender because God put it in my heart. I don't have no animosity with police because not all police are bad. Okay. Now, the officer that shot my son, karma came on him. I had to give it to God. God got my justice. The way karma come back on him and he got shot. But what I look for in the future is peace to when it comes down to these polices, the ones that do and have killed innocent people. They need to have the same justice, the same service as anybody else that shot and killed someone. They need to go in front of a judge and be sentenced and spend their time in jail and get off the streets. because they're no better than anybody else if they continue being out there killing. So we're not going to have no peace if they don't stop the drama and stop the killing of these police doing what they're doing. I hope that God in the future, the kids can walk these streets. I am trying to open up a different way of looking at the way the society is by bringing in innocent children through arts and drawing. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to come in my life with legislation, with Demetrius Foundation, opening up a drawing competition so I can read and understand how child and children feeling right now. Instead of them being on a video on their phone, doing all the clicking, they could be down doing something colorful and constructive where you can understand what's on their mind, where they're in pain, isolate, dramatized, victimized, sad, because colors tells a story. And if I can get enough funds headed my way and enough people that bring their children to me, I hope to God and I pray for this, that I can do this all summer long. And this is going to make me feel good. This is going to be a healing. And I can get these mothers to do this too.
That'd be great. Monique, could you add on about the future of policing and what, just some things that we want to see happen here not here in Minnesota and across the nation?
Okay, just want to clarify something. When Marilyn, when we prayed, that wasn't what I said. That's what the Holy Spirit said. So I'll give all credit.
Oh, I know it.
All credit and glory to Him, right?
Yes, amen.
And also, when you talked about karma, the officer was killed on the 10-year anniversary of when Demetrius was killed, correct?
When he was buried.
Buried, yeah, 10 years. So I just want to bring that out, talking about karma. So the future of policing, if I had my way, right, if it were up to me, I am a police abolitionist. But what I do understand is that because the police are intertwined and interwoven into basically the fabric of America, the fabric of capitalism, racism, white supremacy, genocide, slavery. That's all together. They're all like baked in together into a very nasty, bitter pie for people of color and Black people. So to remove completely, just say, okay, we're just gonna get rid of the police department now. That's not how it can work, right? We have to prepare and have abolishing the police, absolutely. But in order to do that, we have to have some different systems in place. I believe we need an entirely new judicial system, right? Because it's not made for us. It was written, the laws were written by white supremacists, right? For the advancement of white people. So entirely new judicial system, and excuse my language, a new flag, right? That flag's not for us. That flag does not represent us.
Not
the
the
red,
United
white,
States.
That's not for us. That's not for the people. That's not for what America is now. It's for what America was, and the lie that America continues to be, right? That's not very American. It is always very American. That's why it's happening in America. It's very American. A new flag, a new name, we see progress. I don't believe I'll see that in my lifetime, but that's revolution, right? That's revolution. And we need revolutionary change. Why should we be giving a voice to white supremacists? Why should we be giving a voice? That's what our democracy does now. It embraces and empowers white supremacists to suppress Black people and other people of color. So it all has to go.
And to add on to that, so we were having a conversation earlier about how when slaves were being free during the Civil War, and that they was having to crawl, like the Blacks were having to slide through like military combat. But I was thinking about our children who are really getting a bad rap here in Minnesota, about how the things they had to go through over the last year and a half, and having the military here and dealing with COVID, and they still how they still responded during the George Floyd rebellion. And could you guys just speak on just the difference between what happened in January 6th and then the military presence here during the George Floyd trial?
You know, let me say something. When I was little, and that was when Rosa Parton with this racism about fountains and buses, and we had to sit in the back. Okay, I remember those days when we had to go all the way to the back. I remember when I was little, if the buses was full, we had to get off the bus. I remember those days when I had to walk with mama and we had to carry food and heavy food to the house because the buses was full of whites. And we had certain fountains that we was able to drink out, and there was fountains we couldn't have. I remember those days. Now, when it comes down to George Floyd, and since then, and I was downtown around that same time and watched the military trucks right on Wabasha, downtown St. Paul, Minnesota, loaded up a whole string of it. And I took a video of it. I said to myself, what's really happening in Minnesota is there's to take all these military trucks for a protest. I got in my car and I slowly drove from Wabasha all the way up to the state capitol. That's how far from they had came in. Just to find out later on, they surrounded 35W and blocked them off to shoot them rubber bullets on them. And I was on the phone with a girl and her daughter was out there and watched the rubber bullet knock a white girl completely in her chest. So you know what that made me think about? Back there in 63, when President Kennedy, and I remember when my mom and dad, when we were going through racism, and I never forgot how us as blacks was treated. Exactly. And even as me being as young as I was, you can see it's still happening today.
Exactly. Monique, you want to chime in on that?
So, yeah, absolutely. So what was so absolutely disgraceful is that Minneapolis had money to erect fences, to have the military here, to do, I think it was like $400,000. And that was like an early estimate, right? We still had stuff going on. So
$1 million for a fence, for the fence.
Okay. 1 million. So they're like early on. Yeah, right. So we've got $1 million on a fence. That's not all the overtime for the officers and everything, but yet they didn't have money to place the homeless people in the encampments in housing. They're not investing that money to create affordable housing. They're not creating even, tiny homes so that they can at least have a place where they can go in and shut the door and sleep safely. But the money's for that. The money is always available when it comes to assaulting the people standing up for justice.
And now they got a law.
They had money to pay these so-called peacekeepers, people who look like us, who were about that money, just wanted to get paid to work against us.
Speaking on that, what about this law that I just found out that you can run your car over a protester?
Not in Minnesota, but they did pass it.
I just can't believe they do. They passed the law
in Texas and I think 2 other states that if you run over a protester, it's okay. So in those states, like the only recourse you're going to have is you drive in, but you won't drive out. Drive in if you want to, but you won't drive out. That's the only protection that they can have.
Wow. See, and just kind of going back to how much that. So this is what we're talking about: legislation that is racist or that can result in death. Like it's okay to just run over a peaceful protester. Are things why we have to have people pushing on the ground, putting pressure on government, and then people actually doing legislation that are seriously going to get things done, though, that are not going to shuck and jive and make sure that we get the bills and the resources and the goods that we need. But I was just thinking about the white supremacists that ran over the protester yesterday, thinking about how people are being treated by the white supremacists, and then how if we would have been at the Capitol on January 6th doing something like that, what type of response we would have had as compared to how they were allowed to just run in there, beat up officers, all kind of things, and Molotov cocktails by the Capitol, but then we're the bad guys for it.
Just imagine
we would not be sitting here today. We would not be sitting here today had we done that. We would not be sitting here today. No, and the people are allowed to take over the Capitol, right, with the assistance of other branches of government, right, other militarized, the National Guard, the police. They were for it. That's what people are like. I don't understand why they didn't show up. They didn't show up because they were ready to have it go down. They wanted their white supremacist leader, Donald Trump, in that position. So we're just saying we want justice. We don't want to be killed. We don't want police shooting us when they take white men alive. We don't want police terrorizing our communities. We don't want more police, right? Because resources make safe communities, not police. Pump those resources into the communities like they pumped them into those fences, like they pumped them into those groups of Black organizations who wanted money, who didn't want to stand for justice. They want to be peacekeepers and try and talk mess about us and create division, right? But we keep moving, right?
Right.
We get it in. We know that Minnesota.
But one thing I'm realizing that every time they protest, they seem to want to. The white supremacists wants to show they ass by flaring up another killings. What are we gaining? What are we really truly gaining? We ask ourselves that question. We out there, we out here protesting, and we blowing off our voice. I tell you what, we're speaking our voice, but where is it going? Because what I'm noticing is when I sit back and I listen to people protest, trying to get their point out and feel that they got a right to speak because it's freedom of speech. The police sitting back looking at us like, look at them. Just look at them. Let's go shoot somebody. Let's go do something so we can throw them off again to give them something else to do. And it seems like it's constantly piling up more and more and more. And you know what? It just hurts down to the core. It's starting to hurt down to the core. My baby's gone 25 years ago, and I'm starting to feel everybody's pain. Like I'm reliving something that I don't understand. It's a revolution.
Right. So I want to address, so in terms of us protesting, the police kill Black people. That's just what they do. They're going to do that whether we protest or not. But here's the thing I can say. When Marcus was killed, the St. Paul Police Department was the 11th deadliest police department in the United States and the deadliest in the state of Minnesota. St. Paul, not even the largest, right? Minneapolis is almost twice as large as St. Paul. Bloomington, Brooklyn Center, bigger police departments, more people, but yet St. Paul was the deadliest, right?
So what they saying now? That's what
they've not killed, they tapered off, right? They tapered off on the number of people that they've been killing. Minneapolis has been racking up a body count like crazy. But St. Paul, when we started protesting, we had Black Lives Matter St. Paul, not the group that's going now, a different group. They slowed down on killing us. They really did. And I know there was an incident where an officer ended up in the hospital because he was fighting with this black man who allegedly like had a gun and whatnot. But rather than shoot him, this officer took like a couple blows to the head, had stitches, and was hospitalized. But he didn't kill that man. So for some of them, I think they might be thinking, okay, we were hitting on St. Paul so hard. We were hitting on St. Paul police so hard and steady, right? Protests, press conferences, our online social media. I have to believe that had something to do with it. Like we were the watchdogs for the police because it wasn't other organizations, right? Yeah. That could do it. So what we do gain, right? So we protest like people. If we weren't protesting, George Floyd would never have been killer. Derek Chauvin would not have been charged, right? The prosecutor, Mike Freeman, already said, I don't see a chargeable offense. He saw it once the city started burning and once that police precinct burned and they had to send the helicopters to get the 2 officers out the building. That he saw it then, right? But it took protests to get that, right?
It sure did.
Took protests to make change at Beltrami County Jail, right? It was a protest that made change. It's the protest where we're growing, right? We organize, we get better relationships with people. We can roll out so quick now with a protest. We are more efficient than we've ever been. And with the groups that support us and demanding, hey, we're gonna do something about this, because they would have swept Winston Smith under the carpet because they're saying that there's no video. Okay, the marshals couldn't have videos, but maybe there's film in the ramp. Maybe there's film from around. That might give us some idea. But bottom line is they would have swept that completely under the carpet. So if nothing else, if people say protests don't work, we're going to run up that police budget. They're going to spend some money.
You got a point there. Yeah. I can understand what you're saying. Protest is valid, but they got so many going on. If you look at your phone, you look at your media, it's just like they're back to back to back. Every day you got like 3 and 4 protests going on. You don't even know which one to keep up with. I know I'm getting to the point I just can't handle it.
But you know what I love about that is that doesn't all fall on the shoulders of Black Lives Matter, right? Other people are getting out and taking that space. We can't do all that heavy lifting. Other people are getting out and doing it.
And you know what's another thing that's great about it, and I'm really amazed that it's white and black. It doesn't have nothing to do with color. It's a digital, brown, black, white. They're in unity. We're in solidarity with each other. And I just love it. I just love it to death. Because I know that being that everybody got that part in common. Working together as a team, it makes you know that we're not out here by ourselves.
Oh, no, right. Yeah, absolutely not by ourselves. And like I said, it's like a family, right? A community. And it's like family. Sometimes folks don't get along, right? I don't organize with everybody. I just make that clear. If I don't fool with you, I don't fool with you. Right? But, and that's what you have to do. You have to protect your space. Like, I'm not going to allow the devil to come in and take my work, what I've done, like, well, I'd be a fool. Like, I'm too old for that, say like, I don't fool with you,
Well, I pray. I just pray for, sometimes, you can't just get along with people. Some people, you don't know what to say to them. I just look at them and I'm like, well, less words, just hi and bye. I hope you feel better. And wish you well,
Just keep on. Right. But some people are like, everyone should be able to work together. Well, no, that doesn't work anywhere, right? That doesn't work in your job, right? You have a job. Everyone doesn't fit into that job. That's why some people have to get let go, right? In the church, people don't get along all in the church, right? Because there's always people with their own agenda. So it's going to be the same out here in the world. Everybody can't get along. But for the people who do, we get it in.
That's right. Yeah, I think it's about chemistry, and so we're at the
like-mindedness.
We're like-minded and things like that. We're coming in. We got some. Go ahead, Marilyn.
I would think that when everybody doing protests, it's always about some individual gotten hurt. we should just turn this around and shock the nation and do a protest where everybody get together like a family reunion. And they will think it's going to be a protest, but it's going to be a family reunion, and it will shock the world.
Well, we got Juneteenth coming up this Saturday.
That's one.
And that's a family reunion. We was our ancestors were stripped away from our families. This one family might have been on this plantation. Another family might have been on the plantation in Texas. So now we coming together this Saturday as a big nationwide family reunion for the American descendants of chattel slavery. And we will be celebrating at the Capitol. Monique will be speaking. You'll be giving away art. We're gonna
I'm gonna give away prize money.
Prizes, cash.
Yes. Yes, bring your children. The drawing is back there behind me. And if they can outdraw some of the artists that I'm bringing in, the pictures, I will be giving away from $5 to $50 gift certificates.
Oh, that's precious.
We got Sounds of Blackness coming. Jamila Pettiford, a great drum team and a dance team. So we're really excited about this. We're going to celebrate this family reunion for Juneteenth at the Minnesota State Capitol, 1 p.m. sharp. There's a Father's Day's brunch, rallies tomorrow. So we got activities all week happening.
Yes, we do.
So the rally, talking about the rally tomorrow, what time is that?
That's at 6 p.m., right? Downtown.
Oh, Juneteenth?
No, there's another. There's a.
Oh, okay. You're talking about we're marching tomorrow, right? Absolutely.
And then there's a peace rally at 4.
Yeah, I want to deal with the peace rally.
499 Charles is the peace rally. Thursday, we're at Hamlin Mitchell at around 6 for reparations rally.
My birthday is June 17th. That was the one. I know there's a rally on my birthday.
Yeah.
You know, I'll be out there celebrating.
You dig. Thank you guys. We got to keep doing this more often.
Thank you, Trayvon.
Thank you. And Trayvon, I'm going to thank you so much because you have been an inspiration. When I first met you, I realized you know a little bit about my son. And then when we got to personally talk, my condolence to your family. But then when you told me something about your brother, your oldest brother getting killed on Selby, and I remember we used to live on Selby because I remember the incident when they shot your brother right on the side of that bar that had the pool tables. And I said, now I remember you.
Yeah.
And you know what? You are wonderful and you're doing a good job, but you keep your mind focused on where you're at, what you're doing, and don't let nobody steer you off where you're supposed to go with this, no matter what.
I appreciate you, and God bless both of you guys.
Yes.
We're going to keep fighting to get justice for these stolen lives, for these families of stolen lives.
Absolutely.
Whew.
Thank you.
Man.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Love
God
you.
bless us.
Yeah. All right.
See you tomorrow.
Okay,
Yep.
absolutely. We're out here.
I'm glad I had a chance. I didn't think I would make it in time. I did not know you said get on. I was sitting here listening to. I just finished a show.
Oh, okay. Congratulations.
Yes, and do you know? As soon as I got ready to send it to everybody, you got it.
Okay, I'm about to check it out.
They deleted all of them.
Wow.
I'm not joking. They deleted every last one of them I sent. And I was looking on people to see if I can see it so I can listen to it.
I'm going to see if it's still in my inbox.
Yeah, I did pretty good though. I got 250 something viewers.
Congratulations. Thank you for coming in. I'm going to see
You're
y'all.
welcome.
No doubt. And that was Monique Cullars Doty from BLM, Minnesota, and TCC for J, and Marilyn Hill from the Demetrius Hill Foundations. Both have had a loved one lost by police terror to the St. Paul Police Department. We want to thank them for joining us tonight and talking about the issues that are impacting people who have lost a loved one to police brutality. And like we were saying, tomorrow, I believe 499 Charles around 4 o'clock, there's a peace jam at 6 o'clock, big rally downtown Minneapolis. And then at 7:30 Eastern, we'll be talking to the leader of the Green Party of Canada, Anna Me, and myself. I'm the co-chair of the Green Party of the United States. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Green Party of the United States, and she's the chair of the Green Party of Canada. I believe we have some people from Texas who know a lot about Juneteenth who will also join us later on in that call. So make sure that you check that out. Juneteenth rally at Hamlin, Mitchell, Thursday at 6 p.m. Friday. I'm sorry, I'm hot in here. It's sweating. We just got this little new air conditioner, though. We're going to try that out. But we Friday, American Black Music with my man DJ Big Reese and KVO from Gladiator Records. And then Saturday, the Juneteenth celebration at the Minnesota State Capitol with the Sounds of Blackness, Jamila Pettiford, great dance team, Shannon Aliyah, Antonio Darius. So we're really excited about that. Then the Sunday is the Father's Day brunch at the Taste of Rondo. So we will see you. We'll have a very active Juneteenth week. Oh, and then tomorrow is a very, very big day. The city of St. Paul is one of the biggest cities in America to pass a reparations resolution, and the Legislative Advisory Committee is going to be seated tomorrow. So this is a big historic week here in Minnesota, and we're going to keep pushing to close the racial wealth gap in the city of St. Paul. All right. See you tomorrow. Peace. Yes, we'll post up all those events. All right. Peace. And thank you for tuning in.